Hey there guys, this is Michelle and I hope you are ready to talk about Faux-Dori covers. Now on my website you will find a PDF download of this Faux-Dori template, and this is the template that I use to create my Faux-Doris. Now what you'll want to do is print this off and then cut it out, and what I have done with mine is I have taken it and attached it to a piece of chipboard, and I rounded the corners, and I used these to make my Faux-Doris. This is my template right here. Now I'm going to back up a minute. I've been making Faux-Doris for years now, but I have been making them out of leather, like really, really strong leather. And that is why mine is really, I have double the chipboard right here. You do not need to do that. I mean, you could use cereal box weight. You're not going to be cutting through yours with heavy knives probably like I did. And actually, I'm going to show you here an easy way that I do it with cardstock. So you might not even use this part on the outside. You might just need it for these little openings right here for the holes that we're going to punch. Now, how did I get those? Well, back when I was using it for leather, I had this leather tool right here. So I had to be able to get in there and punch that into my leather so that I could see where the mark was. So that's how I got those big, huge holes. It was from a tool like this. You can probably just use your piercing tool just to make a mark to get through that thin piece, or even just take it after I show you. You could even just take it like this and find your center, and then you're going to be able to go like this and make a mark on your cardstock. And look, you can even see right there where I made that mark. So just hang with me, and I'm going to show you some really easy tips that we're going to do with cardstock. If you decide you want to do one in leather, this is the way you're going to want to go, but we're doing cardstock. So I'm going to set this aside, but you're still going to need this template, so make sure you download it. Let me set this back over here. Now, this was my first one that I did out of cardstock right here. Started with the cardstock. The first thing I did was that I knew that I was going to have to round it. And immediately when I started to fold my cardstock for this, it started to crack. And my cardstock just started to become a mess. I hate to ruin good cardstock, but I started to round it. And I started to play with that where my holes were going to be, and priming this back location here. And it started to tear, and it was starting to tear up here. It just wasn't going to work. I knew that I could not use cardstock as it was like this in just its raw form. So I knew I would have to cover it with something. So I pulled out my gloss gel from Liquitex. This is gloss. It also comes in matte, all kinds of things. But I knew that it would cover it and I would be able to use it like this. Now, I was really impatient. I covered the front and I let it dry. And then before it was dry, I covered this. Maybe I covered that first because when I set it down this way, it wasn't dry down here and it picked up, you know, impatient. So you want to let each side dry or it will pick up anything that's sticky on your other side. Didn't bother me. I mean, this was my first one. And then you can see here this hole that I punched with, actually it was with this tool, but I punched this ginormous hole right here. And then I punched these three holes, and I was like, okay, we do not need this ginormous hole. I don't know what I was thinking. Well, it was the first time I'd used the crocodile on a dory. That's why, because with the leather, I hadn't used it. So this was the first one, and I thought, okay, this will work great. So then I made this one. And you know what I did? I punched all my holes with this big hole punch. And I didn't set a setting right here with this. I didn't set a setting. I just went in and punched them, and they were crooked and they were huge and everything showed, and it was ghastly. And I was like, I did not want to waste this beautiful paper. So what I did, I had this, I had this beautiful cardstock that's on special from Close to My Heart. And this cardstock, it's not just any cardstock. This is cardstock. It's solid on one side and printed on the other. And it's a special, this is like a special thing that they're doing this month only. Well, until supplies last. And I was like, I have to make this work. So I was bound and determined that this was going to work. So I had to figure something out. So I went in, they have these things called Picture My Life cards. And this is from the What a Hoot, Life's a Hoot collection. And they had this card right there. And it was a 4x6 side. So I thought, you know what? I could cut that in half. And I could cover this up. I could put half of it right here. And then the other half right here and cover up those holes. So that's what I did. I covered it up. And I used my Liquitex on here. And I let it completely set, and I used a bunch. I mean, I glued it on there because I didn't want it to go anywhere, and I just made really sure that those ginormous holes I had punched were covered up. Now, when it dried, when it was eventually dried, it was like solid. What I had to do then was I had to start working it because it was solid. So I had to work it to break the fibers and get them to move, which isn't a big thing at all. I mean, you do things like that. You can see right here where it's still stiff. Didn't bother me one bit. So I had to break the fibers. I really had to work it maybe about 10 minutes. And then the craziest thing, look at that. I'm like, how stinking cool is that? It looks like a book cover, right? Is that not the coolest thing ever? So this is one layer of cardstock, the whole piece. And then I have 2 inches here of just regular pattern paper and 2 inches of here of pattern paper sandwiched between a layer of cardstock. And that's what gives it that little book binding back there. And then this is a double layer of cardstock. I knew this would need a little bit more because you're going to bring this around. And this is really nice because this protects, where'd I put that? Here we go. This little piece protects the edge of your papers and your documents, whatever you have right there. So I think this is a must-have piece. You want that on there. Okay, so I knew people would ask me, what if I don't have gel medium? And I know you can see all those strokes in there. Here's the thing about gel medium. If you were to put your fingers in there or a little handprint of a kid or something, it's going to stay in there. Whatever you write in there, say you wanted to, maybe you wanted to write art or peace or journey, whatever you want to do in here. If you use a gel medium, it's going to dry the way you leave it. Keep that in mind. Can I use ModPodge or some other product to do that besides gel medium, because I don't have that and I don't know where to find it or it's too expensive? So look at this. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. I did not plan that, even though they did win the Super Bowl. I didn't plan this. So this is with the gel medium, and I think you can see the lines. And now the first few days while this is drying, I think both of them feel a little tacky. You can feel the dampness in them, but these have been dry now for at least a good week or 2, week and a half at the most. And this is the ModPodge. And you don't feel the texture from the medium. If I'm trying to feel something, I can feel it because I'm trying to, but otherwise I wouldn't even know. This one feels a little sturdier, a little more solid, but yet, I mean, there's not really a big deal. This one moves a little easier, And this one is just a little more stiff, but it still moves, okay? And these both have 1 layer. I'm sorry, 2 layers. And I want to show you how I'm cutting these out since we're using paper to make this Faux-Dori. Okay, so you'll see that the measurements of your Faux-Dori are 6 inches by 8.5 inches. That's the measurement of your cover. Now, what I'm going to do is cut the album cover on my paper trimmer. I'm going to pick out whichever side I like, and I can do 6 inches. Let's just go ahead and cut it. We're going to go at 6, and then I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to cut it at 8.5. And then I'm going to bring in a corner punch, and I'm just going to go around and clip all my corners. And there I have a single cover dory that I am going to either Mod Podge or gel after I cut all my corners. Right? That one's ready to go. Now this, I can get another page out of it, just like this. I can get 2 from a dory. I could cut another one and we could put these 2 back together like this, or I could just bring out another sheet of paper, cardstock, and I could bring this over to 8.5 and go ahead and cut this piece of cardstock. So I cut it at 8.5, and now I am going to, what am I going to do? It's 12, so I don't need to do anything else. This is 12, and I'm going to make this a double. So I'm going to put my trimmer away before I cut anything else. I'm going to put my trimmer away. If you want to use a scoring tool to help you get this perfectly scored before you fold it, you can do that. I'm just going to fold this in half. Then I'm going to take my bone folder, my Teflon folder, and I'm just going to score it right down the middle here. And then I'm going to round my edges all the way around, and then I will have a double-paged cover. It's that easy. Single page, if you want a single page, you can cut 2 singles like this and marry them together. If you want a different front and a different color inside, you can do it that way. You can do it this way, whichever you like. We've got these covers. You can see I've already rounded these corners. I haven't finished rounding these corners. So what is the next step? Okay, so we've got our covers. Our next step is we need to make this little piece right here, our little page protector piece. Now I've already cut these, and you can see these are not perfectly, I don't get these perfectly the same size every time, because sometimes I have scraps of paper that are just the perfect size, so I really don't worry about it. So these have already been covered, and like I said, I did one with the gel and I did one with the Mod Podge. When I'm folding this, I will put my gel or my Mod Podge in here and seal that. And then what I do is I stick it either between some of these nylon sheets, or between some parchment, or some deli sheets, and I just do this when I have 2 together because I want to get a nice layer inside. And I only do that when I'm doing the inside, and then I pull those off and I just set that up and I just let that dry. And I let them dry really well. And while those are drying, I work on my inside pieces. So I always have something to do. It's not like you don't have anything to do and you're just waiting. There's so many other things you can do. So I'm going to set this aside and let's talk about these. Now we have our template here, and let's say we just want to go like this. You've got your template here, and actually I'm going to pull out my template And let's pretend that it's just the cutout. It doesn't have to be, let's pretend like we don't have the chipboard on there or whatever you like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab a Sharpie here. I'm just going to mark it. And yes, I can see that really well. I'm going to line this back up. And it doesn't fit perfectly on mine because I have taken off some of this as I have cut around leather pieces. So, but I don't get too excited about it. I'm just going to mark. I just put this in and mark. If this was a piercing tool, I would just take it and, I mean, I could just, if you're using a, yeah, just a piercer, just mark that and let's see if that, oh yeah, hello. You can see those holes just fine. Heck yes, you can see those just fine. So I could use this for these. Okay, and then same thing on these. Let's do the yellow. Could set that right there, and I can do the same thing. That hole, if for a hole punch, if you don't have a crocodile or some kind of a hole thing, it's a 1.5 millimeter hole is what this is, 1.5 millimeter. Boy, I don't know if you remember these, but back in the day making memories, this I use a lot too. If I can even get it out right this second. Come here, little guy, come here. Oh, I'll just use this. There we go. This I use a lot. This is a hole punch. This is a 1.5 millimeter hole. And how you use this. Oh my goodness. There we go. I thought I had it. And when I use this, I use a mat under it. And you just take it and you pounce through. To get a hole in this cardstock is not going to take much. Let me just put this under it. So to use the hole in the punch, super easy, especially on cardstock. I'm just going to place this right here. Let's see. I haven't done this on the cardstock yet. Okay, it's going to take a little more arm power, and I think I need a different surface underneath it, but you get it. That's how this one works. I have to really hit it, and I don't want to do that on camera because my whole table is going to shake. That's what I use. This is what I do for the leather. Yeah, this is how I punch the holes in the leather. But honestly, you know what? Maybe I should try the crocodile on the leather. I don't know why. Why have I not done that? That's the real question we should be asking right now. So I'm going to bring this over and let's see. I have it set on the smaller hole, which is what I want. And then with that red dot right there, it's let's see. I have this set for small holes, so let me bring, or for the top ones. I'm just gonna, I just eyeball it. And there I have a hole right there in my cover. The first hole is done. And then I do use these little things right here. And I want to use the small hole. You do not want to use the big hole. Now, even if you're using, okay, let's talk about elastic. I believe, yes, this is my elastic cord. So even if, here's our elastic. This is, I usually have this in white and black, and this is 2 millimeter. I get this in bulk from Amazon. You can also get it at your craft stores, jewelry section stores. Here's one I want to try. This one I think I picked up at maybe Walmart. I don't even know. This is 2.7 millimeters. And I think this will go through just fine, but this has to go through twice. You're going to have 2 cords that come out of there. See how that, not 2 cords, but it's going to go, it's going to come in and out twice. And that's the only one that does that. Okay, so we've got a hole punched here. I'm gonna pick up my Crocodile, and I definitely need this little measuring guide because I'm just not the best at lining it up perfectly. And once you get your elastic in there, you know, there's some room. You really just don't even look at that. So there's wiggle room. It hides it so well, so you can get away with it not being perfect. All right, so that's not good for either one of those. Let's back this up a bit. I think I want it right about here. Maybe right about there. Right about there. Let's see if I can make that happen. Let's see. Okay. And then I'm just going to punch all of those. Let's say that I didn't like that. You know what I could do is, I mean, I have this whole thing of pattern cardstock. I could take a 4x6 like I did with those Picture My Lives. They came in 4x6. I could cut one down to a 4x6. Whoopsie, cut it into 4x2. I'm sorry, 6x2. Put it on the spine, glue it down on the spine, glue this down on the spine, and repunch it. And that worked just fine. That's how I got this to look like a book. At least that worked great on my 1 layer. I don't know how it would look on my 2 layer, but I think I want to try that with either this pink one, or with this one. I mean, don't you think that would look gorgeous? I'm really excited to try that and see. These little books are addictive. I have been making them for months and I can't stop. I love them so much. Okay, and while we're punching, don't forget this little guy. I do this with the leather. I don't know if I want to do it with the cardstock. I would fold them like this and punch. And it worked just fine. Okay, so we have our punches in. Oh, you know what? Here's another question to ask. Oh my goodness. I didn't have this question on these because these are 1 layer. And I mean, it's a no-brainer. What is the inside and the out? But this is a whole nother question. Which is the inside and which is the out? I really liked that airy, ethereal feeling with the white. You know, I wanted mine to be like a prayer journal to help me with my depression and stuff. So I could just make notes in there as I visit with the Lord and stuff. So I was going just for that light, airy, you know. Yeah, this is just full of sunshine, but I'm so loving that. So that's something else. Okay, look at this. This is ready to go. So there you have it. This is how you do your covers. Super easy, right? Right? So we started by printing out the template that's on the blog. Templates on the blog, you need this and you need this. And you can cut these out on your paper cut trimmer. You can cut your cardstock out on your paper trimmer. So you can get it nice and straight edges. You don't have to cut it by hand. You don't need to use any rotary tools or anything like that. You can just whisk it right out with your paper trimmer if you want to do that. If you want, you can do your paper single-sided, like this. You can do it single-sided, or you can make a double-sided. Your choice. Regardless of how you make your journal, do make your paper protector right here. Make it double-sided for sure, because it's got a big job of protecting your pretties in there. So definitely double that up. I almost feel like this looks like I did more than double it up. This looks like I did 3 at least. So yeah, double this up because you won't regret that, okay? So covers, template, cut your covers, 6 by 8.5. So easy. If you're working with 12 by 12, just fold it in half, you've got it. Then you're going to you're going to seal your cover with your either ModPodge or a gel medium. Your choice, it doesn't matter, but keep in mind that a gel medium, if you want to write in the gel medium or if you want to use a stencil and make some of it thick in there, that's going to stay just like you put it on there. You're going to feel all of that. That's not going to go away. It's not going to fade away. It's going to be a texture. So if you want to write secret messages in there, you can do that. If you're using ModPodge, it's going to be a smoother finish. It's going to just settle in there a little bit. If you try to find some lines, you will find them. But it is going to be smoother. Now, for the first several days of drying, they're going to be a little tacky. It's going to take probably a good few days, and depending on how much product you use on them, for all of that moisture to dry and to just get to dry out of the covers themselves. And while those are drying, we're going to be preparing everything else. So get your paper, your cardstock, get all of that prepared. Make sure before you cover one side at a time with your medium, because if it's not dry and you flip this over and start doing this side, it's going to tear. So the paper will just tear right off. Regardless, it doesn't matter which medium you use. If you get excited and you turn it over and start doing the other side before one side is dry, you'll lose some of it. That doesn't bother me. But it can, yeah, you don't want to do that. So make sure each side is dry before you apply to the other. Don't be in a hurry with this, okay? Don't be in a hurry with it. Let it dry and work on your insides while these are drying and while you're working on them. And thanks for joining me.